I just want to say hello to Australia. Have a holiday somewhere in Australia.
I had the pleasure to witness something pretty special the other night in Wellington, windy Wellington, when Split Enz hit the stage on tour for the first time in almost 2 decades.
She says, boy, I want you to stay, but I'll say it all for another day. If I stop, I could lose my head, but I'm ready for romance. Either way, I'm confused. I don't know what I'm supposed to do. I can only stay one step ahead of you. One step ahead, only one step ahead. Now she's one step ahead of you.
Little microphones on. Neil and Tim Finn from the Split Enz. This is really a dumb question, but I've never been to New Zealand. What is it like?
It's a very small country, first and foremost. One must emphasise this is only 3 million people, so...
New Zealand had been a British colony from 1840 to 1907, when it became its own self-governing dominion before achieving independent status 40 years later. The people, known as Kiwis, are recognized for their Maori culture, love of rugby, and, of course, the buzzy bee, invented in Auckland in the late 1930s.
It's a very, very slow country. The pace of life is excellent for young children. It's a fantastic place to grow up as a kid, and it's also a great place to retire. But in between, young New Zealanders seem to sort of go out.
They call it the brain drain.
Go forth.
The brain drain, yeah.
You just sort of pack up your old kit bag and set out on the old road. You know,
look as anonymous as possible. And
Australia is a stepping stone for New Zealand entertainers generally. Australia, like the eyes of the world are on Australia now, I feel. You know, what's going to come out next. And so we went to Australia to get noticed, I guess.
But before we even get into Australia, Brian, to shortly become Tim Finn, and lifelong mate Mike Chun enrolled at the University of Auckland in 1971. But when they weren't in the study halls, they spent most of their time hanging around with their flatmates, among them Phil Judd, in a music rehearsal room numbered 129, experimenting. Guys came and went over the months, with about a dozen different members rotating through the group at some point or another, eventually leading to a real band, which they called Split Enz. Their first single in February of '73 had an acoustic backbone to it, as they were just starting to figure themselves out.
We're outside the times, seen the break of day. My parents beat me 'cause I left, or something like that, for nights on end. You've been my friend. I turned the lights on just for you, for you, for you, just for you.
That very same month, they made their television debut on the New Zealand talent program New Faces.
Hiding in the wings forever, we'll take the stage. It's now or never, and the whole thing reeks of cheap striptease. The matinee idols, they all fall to their knees. It's not our first nights at all. There's nothing more dull than a curtain call.
They made it to the finals, but fell short to Bulldog's All-Star Good Time Band.
Coming back from the pub one night, came across an unusual sight. There was a chick with neat yellow teeth, dancing to a dustbin beat. Come on, babe, let yourself go. Come on, woman, let your kneecaps flow. Come on, babe, and move with me. Dance the stars away.
However, the band had gotten some valuable attention around Auckland now, and were scraping up a little money doing odd jobs and TV commercials for Max Factor and Suzuki.
Get it together, oh, and let Suzuki blow your mind. Just let Suzuki blow your mind. And let Suzuki blow your mind.
By 1975, they changed their moniker to Split Enz with the NZ at the end, signifying their home roots and a way to make them stand out more. They would also begin to stabilize the band's lineup. Brian Finn was now using his middle name, Tim, as he and Phil Judd would become the act's chief songwriters and singers. Supported by Wally Wilkinson on guitar, Emlyn Crowther behind the drum kit, Mike Chun on bass, and a keyboard wizard named Eddie Rayner. Noel Crombie, who just hung around for no particular reason, would soon be designing the group's wild new costumes and gravity-defying hair. And as far as anyone else could tell, had only one real musical talent, playing the spoons. So they began working on their debut album, which, as it turned out, would actually turn into 2 debut albums. The band's initial idea was to record the debut full-length with Roxy Music's Phil Manzanera, whom they'd met earlier in 1975 at a festival. But Manzanera was already committed to other projects at the time, so the band relocated to Sydney, Australia, and recorded it there, amid much strife and tension, with the usually complaining David Russell, the former guitarist of Ray Columbus and the Invaders. He wanted to make the album the normal way, but Split Enz were not interested in normal. In the end, what they were left with was a raw but muddied sound, and a lot of aggravation. So when the album came out on the last day of July, the guys weren't really feeling it.
And if you all had rooms, would you still have room for me? I'm just a country boy, can't you see that I'm still green? Raising finance for the day we meet, gazing headlong down some empty street. Baby, she'll come along, take me right up my feet. Oh baby, please don't be long, I need all the help I can get. Maybe we'll get it on. Ooh la la.
But the Kiwi public was feeling it, as it propelled to the number 7 spot on the Kiwi charts over the course of several weeks.
Just like the mystic says, be careful of what you say. Talking to himself, he needs no one to help him on his way. Oh, please don't leave me alone. Please don't leave me alone.
As 1976 arrived, it would become time to unleash the debut in the US and Europe. But then Split Enz did a quick pivot, still upset over the David Russell incident. They'd remembered Ray Manzanera was still interested in working with them, so they gave him a call, and sure enough, he was free, and invited the act to England, with the idea to fix everything that David Russell had messed up. So Manzanera modified and tidied up some of the group's original mixes, much more to the guys' satisfaction. But they didn't stop there, reconstructing a few other early tracks as well.
My house is sliding into the city. Hey, skies are gray. Since you've been away, the chickens aren't laying eggs no more. It can only mean you left me for sure.
Split Enz released this refurbished edition as Second Thoughts Down Under. But here's where it gets confusing. In other parts of the world, it was not called Second Thoughts. It was called Mental Notes, again, So the group wound up with two distinctly different albums called Mental Notes, the original Back Home and the international version with an alternate track listing and redone song mixes. Even stranger, Phil Judd redid the art for the album cover, with a few changes, the most identifiable being Phil's bald head right smack dab in the middle. Then they went on their first UK tour, having to make yet another lineup change, as Malcolm Green was hired to be their new drummer. Split Enz were opening for English folk rockers Jack the Lad, as Noel Crombie dove head first into the band's new image, leaving behind a largely bewildered audience, while their outfits were attracting a bit too much attention.
I'll describe the experience and Noel can provide the punchline. You see, what happened was we were surrounded by a crowd of teddy boys who hate punk rockers, and they said to us, "You're punks, aren't you?" This was in King's Road in Chelsea. "You're punk rockers, aren't you?" They shook the car, sprayed us with beer. Horror, horror. And Noel said, "No, we are
New Zealanders."
However, they had also picked up a fair share of new fans, entranced and electrified by the collective's originality.
Cunning as a con man, shrewd as a liar. I went Greek in the knees the first time I saw you. Deep inside, they read you well. I'll give it a try. Do what you will. Look out now, wake up! But I've seen it all before. It's nothing new to me. I live in legend, like 15 million other angels.
By this time, a teenage Neil Finn had been writing songs with Rob Murdoch at a local folk club. They even opened for the Enz back in '75. And in '76, Neil himself would support Split Enz on an entire local tour, alone, just him and his guitar. By '77, Neil already had a decent amount of stage experience when he started a brand new outfit called After Hours.
Wish I was a Texas Ranger, on my own way out of danger. Shoot first off, questions later, and take it nice and easy.
After Hours did their first gig supporting a band called Waves, and their one and only press review was quite positive. But 3 days before their second gig, Neil got a phone call from the United States. Why? Well, let's jump back a couple of months. Split Enz had just come to America for their very first tour in February. But for a while now, Tim and Phil had been butting heads, not only in the live setting, but also with their songwriting partnership. And that was just the beginning. American audiences were just as dazed and confused as UK audiences were when they first laid eyes on the act. So the tour became somewhat of a chore after a while, and Phil Judd just wasn't into it. He was unreliable and would occasionally walk off the stage during a performance, not to return. Judd's excuse was he had a bladder problem, then would be too embarrassed to return. Okay. But of course the other guys knew better. So when the band arrived in Atlanta, they would finally blow the roof right off. On their second of a 4-night run, Phil walked off the stage mid-show yet again. And within 24 hours, the entire dynamic of Split Enz would combust almost instantaneously, altering their lives forevermore. Because after the show, Tim had it. And punches began to get thrown, as Tim and Phil had what was best described as one of the messiest and sloppiest fights of all time, as the guys tossed Judd out right then and there. Then quickly afterwards, Neil got that telephone call, which was, of course, an invitation to join his brother's group. So Neil fulfilled his obligation and played After Hours' second and final live show, with his bags already packed. Wait, but there's more. The day after Neil was in the band, Mike Chun was out, as he desperately missed being home, now worn down by, quote, panic attacks and tranquilizers. So Nigel Griggs, an old mate of Malcolm Green, quickly got his own phone call and said yes immediately. Griggs was older, but boy could he play a bass guitar. So with their 2 new additions, the band wrapped up their U.S. gig slate just as spring had sprung. Split Enz had begun making Dysrhythmia in June, and couldn't have been in a better mood, with Neil and Nigel adding a much-needed oomph to the proceedings. With the Enz now reapproaching their sound, the art rock indulgencies were starting to take a back seat now, as their new leader Tim jumped right up front and restarted the engine, driving towards a more traditional, pop-oriented destination. And before long, Neil would also be hopping up into the front seat, right alongside Tim, to double the band's pop output and ultimately triple its impact. So this was the perfect time to meet their new producer, Geoff Emerick, who was famously a former engineer of the Beatles. Although a bit eccentric, jumbled, and quiet at first, Geoff would wind up fitting right in. Emerick was also invaluable when it came to teaching them a few lessons about what it takes to make a great hit single. And they wanted a great hit single. During the making of the record, the band brought back Robert Gillies on saxophone and trumpet from the old rotating door days of the band. Then during production, they went on a mini-tour of Britain to keep sharp and hopefully get a few more pounds into their bank accounts. The quickie tour went even better than expected, so much so that wheels were set into motion for them to appear on the BBC TV program Sight and Sound. Dysrhythmia was unveiled in late August, and would eventually peak at number 3 on both the Kiwi and Aussie charts, as the band finally flew back home to promote the new release.
Back in the Antipodes, after the wide world yonder, the Split Enz are being ushered in by Mushroom, Australia's rock plant, for what promises to be a record romp around the country. This tour comes hard on the heels of their latest release, Dysrhythmia, meaning lack of coordination. But despite what's been called their imbecile approach, they seem to have the nuts to match the bolts.
Then they headed right back to England for more shows, but found out that the record wasn't selling well, and getting almost no airplay there. And heck, anywhere else above the equator, really. But there was one exception, the Netherlands, where My Mistake had somehow become a surprise hit there, reaching the top 20 on the Dutch charts.
All
Split Enz followed the hit up with a lovely tour of the Netherlands, which was a very satisfying way for them to close out 1977. Unfortunately, during the course of the upcoming year, the group would soon find itself stuck in a pool of quicksand, with only one way out: to stay absolutely calm.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to introduce you to the band just very briefly. On the keyboards, we have Mr. Eddie Rayner. Thank you very much, Eddie. And next to Eddie, showing that anybody can really do it if they want to, I mean, look at him, is Mr. Neil Finn. Thank you, Neil. And on Neil's right, we have Mr. Nigel Griggs. And next to Nigel, we have Mr. Malcolm Green, must be heard to be seen. Thank you, Malcolm. And then, of course, over on the far right-hand side of the stage, we have Mr. Robert Bruce Gillies. Thank you very much, Robert. We have, of course, none other than Mr. Noel Crombie, the champion of the spoons. And, of course, there's myself, Tim, full of vim to the brim and nimble at that.
When the now 6-piece unit had been told by Chrysalis Records that the numbers just weren't adding up, they knew it was bad, but they didn't realize just how bad. The band were reactionary at first, as they started blaming everyone else around them, firing most of them, including their manager Barry Coburn. When Mushroom Records found out that they had no international label and no manager, the executives pressured the Enz's biggest supporter, Michael Gudinski, to give up on the act, as they had just become too expensive to operate anymore. Luckily for the Finns, Gudinski happened to be the founder of Mushroom. So instead of being dropped, the group was put on a sabbatical of sorts, with no money being spent on them or coming in for them. Then they were told by Mushroom to wait by the phone. And for the next 6 months, the only calls the guys were receiving were from bill collectors. But instead of throwing in the towel, they began experimenting with new things, getting better, and preparing themselves for their next chance, just like the big montage scene in a redemption movie. Neil and Noel spent a lot of time on their own, fiddling with scattershot ideas and urges, with a duo they called the Nines. But by now, things had gone from worst to downright worrisome, as the guys were on their literal last legs financially. When right in the nick of time, a knight in shining armor appeared in the form of a grant for $5,000 from the New Zealand Arts Council, just when they needed it. So with little money, manager, or studio time discount coupons, they went to the cheapest place they could get their hands on, in Luton, England. And thanks to their previous 6 months of preparation, they came into the tiny studio with 26 songs, and recorded every single one of them in 2 days. These demos would be dubbed the Rootin' Tootin' Lootin' Tapes, which the group believed captured them in their most creative era to date. Shortly after the Luton tapes, a Split Enz fan had told them about a budding producer friend of his named David Tickle, who had worked with Mike Chapman. Tickle drove up to meet the band, and they hit it off right away. A week later, they headed into Ringo's studio to tape a few things. And on day 1, Jimmy Piercy and Sham 69 showed up, took over, and began telling the guys how to record a demo they'd been working on called Next Exit.
Life is like
While Sham 69 were kidnapping the studio, Tickle had noticed a song sitting around called I See Red. So when Piercy and company finally left, Tickle and the guys started playing with it in a fun, unique sort of way. You see, Tim had written it as a ballad, but the guys began speeding it up and speeding it up again until something wonderful happened. Eddie Rayner had spearheaded the drive to get I See Red released as a single on Mushroom again. And it worked, and soon became the band's second single to break into the top 20. And the sabbatical was over, down under at least, as the label was back on board. After their success in Australasia, the Enz stayed in the UK, heading to Wales for a couple of weeks for rehearsals and additional writing. But then the group and David Tickle would be informed that his studio services were no longer needed. Mushroom considered him to be a no-name producer, even though he just made their new hit single. At this point, the group didn't have much to say about it, though. On this, their second career chance with Mushroom. Then the label got a chance to get John Leckie to produce, but they passed. Passed? Nope, they wanted Mallory Earle, who'd worked with Hendrix for their big-name superstar producer, and were expecting great things from him. The only problem was Mallory Earle sucked. And as it turned out, he lied about quite a few things that made him sound much more appealing than he actually was, which the band realized straight away. But again, the label pays the bills, so the guys had to suffer through the sessions. The one good thing that came out of it was their introduction to the sessions engineer, Hugh Padgham, who we'll hear about later. So the guys recorded most of the album, to be called Frenzy, in Oxfordshire. When production wrapped, Split Enz finally headed back home for their appearance at the Mombasa Festival. However, just a day before the show, they got a slap in the face from powers bigger than themselves, when a fire in the building that stored their gear burnt to the ground. Miraculously, a huge fan of Eddie's just happened to have all the same keyboard equipment and let Rayner borrow it. I mean, what a fan! As the band somehow scrummaged up replacements for the other gear and forged on.
And we'd like to thank you all. I'd like to thank particularly everybody here tonight, which includes the people who helped us to organise this occasion, because when we got a very warm welcome when we came to Waihi. I won't dwell on it because it's history, but we played tonight and we're glad we did.
Frenzy was made available to the Kiwi and Aussie public in February of '79, but oddly came without I See Red, which was probably a mistake. But regardless of how the band felt about that, and the sloppy post-production work, the songs were still full of vitality. Frenzy would wind up peaking at number 3 in New Zealand and 24 in Australia, while their gigs were still selling out. But it just wasn't enough, as they still had no international label and found themselves getting right back into financial trouble. So they would need to make perfect decisions from now on, if they had any chance at all of saving their careers. With the Enz home in New Zealand now, there was no reason to return to the UK, so they just plopped themselves down and took a breath, with some of their time spent recording demos in Auckland. Tim had now begun simplifying his songwriting, with less emphasis on peacocking the song for showman's sake, and more emphasis on getting down to the very foundation of the tune. But just as the Enz were overhauling their music-making processes, Mushroom had run them into the ground financially. So much so that still without an international deal, the label began making out their will, so to speak. But one last-ditch effort would be made to try to recoup some of their monetary losses, with a tour. So label head Gudinski got rid of their old manager and hired Nathan Brenner. Now Nathan Brenner was a big-time Kiwi music photographer before getting his new job. But strangely, the guy never took pictures of himself, as not one usable image of him could be found. So, in lieu of any other options, for the remainder of this story, Nathan Brenner will be portrayed by Ranger Smith. Because, hey, the show must go on. Now, Brenner turned out to be such a great manager and money guy that he somehow got the band out of debt during the Give It a Whirl tour in May. He'd even managed to get a few dollars in the Enz pockets. So it can be argued that Nathan Brenner single-handedly saved Split Enz.
What's the attraction of Split Enz? Well, I think they're a very different group. I think they're a very artistic group in New Zealand.
They're original.
Yeah.
They're unique.
Yeah.
And they're bloody good to listen to.
Well, they're a really good group, one of New Zealand's best.
So I've seen the majority of the concerts I've done.
Yeah.
And I'm just watching the progression of the band. Yeah. Every time they come back from England, they're a little better, a little different. They're the best group in New Zealand.
Their final single release of the 70s was an experiment of sorts. You see, during the recording of their next full-length in Australia, Neil took some initiative and wrote a song whose sole intent was to make the chart. The band basically did it all on their own. Then they presented it, gift-wrapped, to the Kiwi public. But alas, the Kiwi public turned a blind eye, and the song was a failure, sounding more like an XTC Beatles hybrid than Neil Finn, teaching him a very valuable lesson. Just be who you are. And although things would quickly be forgotten, Neil's next single would not, turning the Split Enz from a little Kiwi oddity into a global pop heavyweight. It's time for a Phil Judd update. As the Finns and company had been heading into a pop direction, Phil Judd was drawn to the now burgeoning punk scene. First in a band called The Enemy, and then to the Suburban Reptiles, who he joined a bit late, but would take it upon himself to produce their second and final single. And son of a gun if it didn't become a minor hit. Stay tuned for another Phil Judd update.
I like the guy with the skinny face. I like the guy with the little curly thing on his head. It's cute.
We're coming from Tarcutta, 30 miles to see the band.
Let's go. Let's go. Come on, yeah.
The Split Enz lineup includes brothers Tim and Neil Finn.
It helps, you know. I mean, when it comes down to it, we're at each other's throats and fighting with each other, then the fact that we're brothers probably saves the relationship.
It does,
you know?
yeah, because like he's writing and I'm writing, and a lot of bands when there's a strong pair of people writing, you get clashes which lead to breakups. But as Neil says, because we're brothers, we have to stick together.
Yeah, we have to meet together at home, you know, with the family, so we can't really...
When it came time to make the next record, Michael Gudinski had contacted David Tickle and asked him to produce. Wait, the guy who made I See Red before having his back turned on him by Mushroom? Yep, that's the guy.
Who producing this album?
It was produced by David Tickle, the young Englishman who's been working with Mike Chapman in America. He engineered the Knack album and also the Blondie album, Eat to the Beat. So as an engineer, he's like well established, and this is actually his first production.
So Tickle and the Enz began doing some rehearsal work on the Gold Coast. When one day when the guys were tuning up, David heard Neil playing a guitar part when something hit Tickle right between the ears. Asking Neil what he was playing, Neil simply replied, B flat, as he was just making it up on the spot. So Tickle and Neil began working on the song right then and there. Mal Green added a simple kick drum, and they were off. Then Neil thought of a fluttering chorus he'd had just sitting around. So he married the two parts, and ta-da! The verse and chorus would wind up living happily ever after.
Look at you, you're a pageant, you're everything that I've imagined. Something's wrong, I feel uneasy. Reassure me, tell me you're not teasing. I don't know why sometimes I get frightened. You can see my eyes, tell that I'm not lying. I don't know why sometimes I get frightened. You can see my eyes, you tell me you're not lying.
In November, the guys headed to Armstrong Studios in Sydney, and everyone was excited. Everyone except Crombie, since there was little room for his percussionary bits in Tickle's plans. But he contributed in two big ways. He would end up directing a pair of the album's videos, and would design the now famous record cover. And to offset the basicness of the simple geometric shapes, Noel had decided to use multiple color schemes to make the record stand out more. Which it did, to be sure, but it also created a sort of retail excitement in shops, as the group's biggest fans were buying multiple copies of the covers, beginning to collect them all. Brilliant. But even more brilliant were the songs.
Good evening, Australia. I've been waiting 4 years for this. My name is Tim Finn, and I'm full of vim to the brim, and nimble at that.
Ladies and gentlemen, tonight we're supposed to be saving our energy, and we have Noel Crombie in the background here spending all the available energy he has at his disposal. Such frivolous display will not be rewarded. That's Noel Crombie. Who would have thought it?
Love's got teeth as she bites your heart, leaving you for dead like a deadly shark. She doesn't leave a lot inside. Swimming in the harbor with your smile, splashing in the ocean like a child. I didn't know what dangers were just beyond the waves. Do me up and she spat me out. Didn't want me to man it up. Well, I lost the sea and I'm an empty, and I'm swallowing the water when I want to shark attack.
So we have here a couple of Poms, people from England, that is. We have Malcolm Green, who plays the drums, and Nigel Griggs, who plays the bass guitar. Just briefly, boys, we're in the middle of an Australian evening tonight. What do you think of Australia, yes?
Yeah, yeah,
Yes?
yeah.
Good, I'm glad
Yeah.
it meets with your approval. Very eloquent there.
Yeah.
Home to a sweet home. It just occurred to me to be on my own in search of bitter treats. Well, I get so removed to never notice it. Step in my shoes, you see that I don't fail. I walk down the wrong way, hoping I'll go astray. I like to be a missing person.
I fall apart when you're around. When you're here, I'm nowhere. I can't pretend that I'm not down. I show it, I know it. I've been a fool more than once, more than twice. I'm gonna move to a new town where the people are nice. I hope I never have to sigh again. I hope I never have to cry again. I still want to be man smile. Happiness is back in style. I hope I never have to see you again. Oh.
After the sessions, the Enz felt super confident this time out. So when Tickle turned the final mixes into Gudinski, Michael was absolutely beside himself, saying, quote, "I just wasted $8,000. Wait, what? Yep, Gudinski didn't like the album, saying, quote, "There isn't a hit single on it." Neil firmly disagreed, with the belief the album in fact had 3 or 4 hit singles. But sure enough, as the album began circulating around Mushroom, Gudinski realized he would have to eat his words, which of course he was more than happy to do. In fact, it was Michael himself that would get the band their U.S. deal with A&M Records. So with 2 tracks now flip-flopped to feature I Got You, True Colors got released to the rest of the world in August and began climbing up charts worldwide. But by this time, the band were well into production on their next record, and they would use as much of True Colors' DNA as they could possibly get their hands on, hoping the next album would, A. Keep their global momentum going.
I Got You has been around the world. Not only was it #1 in Australia and New Zealand for 2 months, it was #5 in Canada, while in the UK, Music Week warned it might be too good for general pop. The song chopped up the typical British charts to #12.
And B. Avoid any hurdles that may present themselves.
The winners are a group that's worked years for it. Split Enz, I've Got You.
Picking up the award for Best Single is the writer, Neil Finn.
It might be most accurate to describe the band's follow-up to True Colors as its fraternal twin. Both are fathered by the same man, David Tickle, contain a consistent 11-track lineup, including a pair of instrumentals each, and similar cover art stylings of geometric simplicity. Coincidence? I think not. The main difference between the two? Attitude. For the first record, they were just hanging out and getting to know each other, having fun. But by the time this get-together commenced, the pressure was on. The stakes were bigger, and things got more serious.
I don't wanna dance no more, not since you walked out the door, left without a second glance. That's the end of my romance. No more fancy footwear in the nightclub. I'm a still point in a turning world. I don't wanna dance tonight. I can hardly stand the sight of lovers moving on the floor. There's a memory I can't ignore of listening to the DJ play the record, play the partner, move around, and I'm dancing in the baby's arms again. I don't wanna dance, baby. I don't wanna dance, baby. I don't wanna dance.
When the album came out on April Fool's Day, the Enz decided to double their pleasure by choosing two album titles. You see, there was a plan to regionalize the album titles for everywhere it was released, but that plan fizzled, thank goodness. I mean, 2 was confusing enough. So in Australasia they called the album Corroboree, which is a traditional Aboriginal Australian ceremony of music and dance. Internationally, they called it Waiata, which means song or singing in the Maori language. So most of the world's record buyers couldn't even pronounce the title of the album they just purchased.
There's a lot of good acts around, plenty of profound performers, but there's only one who really gets through to me. Whenever you come on, I light up. Everything you do goes down well. I can tell after you it's all downhill. Proving you're a hard act to follow. You're a hard act to follow. Make it difficult. Hard act to follow, you're a hard act to follow. Me at arm's length, sacrifice strain from a distance. Hard act to follow.
Now actually making the album had been a much more laboring endeavor this time. David Tickle was feeling mighty proud of himself with True Colors' success, so he came in with a heavier hand this time out, more assertive and direct, which would begin to rub the boys the wrong way, getting to a point where Tim asked him why Neil's song sounded better than his. Oh boy. Well, from Tickle's perspective, Neil was laid back, and when David insisted on him staying out of the control room during mixing, Neil would follow orders, though sheepishly. But not Tim. He was way more hands-on, pacing back and forth, frustrated, and overthinking things to a maddening degree. As Tickle put it, Quote, Tim's songs were just more restless because he was restless. So at this point, the happy family that made True Colors had now become somewhat of a dysfunctional family.
There was a girl I used to know. She dealt my love a savage blow. I was so young, too blind to see. But anyway, that's history. I say history never repeats. I tell myself before I go to sleep. Don't say the words you might regret. I lost before, you know I can't forget.
Malcolm Green had done the drums on the record, of course, but he would not be touring with them this time out. Green's intra-band relationships, with Tim especially, had been deteriorating for quite a while now. Green felt the band was excluding him, especially in songwriting, where his songs were usually tossed. Even when Mal was given the chance to prove his songwriting chops on a demo, it came to no avail, and was quickly forgotten. But now it had gotten to the point where Green was being too adamant about his displeasures in the band, even bluffing he may leave the act altogether. Unfortunately for Malcolm, his bluff was called. So, for the time being, Crombie would be stepping up on drums for their upcoming tour. Split Enz would be on the road for the next year and a half, just about everywhere. And by the time their series of tours had finally ended, the band was downright spent, needing some well-earned rest to recharge their batteries, work on new material, and maybe catch a movie.
It's time for a Phil Judd update.
When we last left Phil Judd, he just produced a local hit by Suburban Reptiles, but they broke up shortly afterward. So Judd grabbed some guys from that band and formed a brand new entity called the Swingers, including Bones Hillman. In early '81, they released a single, and son of a gun if it didn't top the singles charts in New Zealand and Australia.
From a band from New Zealand, and this band is really roaring up the charts. Their record producer was David Tickle, who did the Split Enz things, and this is the hottest record around at the moment, and it's by the Swingers, and it's called Counting the Beats.
An album followed later that year and shot to number 2 at home, aided by another top 5 Kiwi single.
Well, my knees are knocking, a bit of hot, I'm shaking all over on the spot. I said 1 step, 2 step, 3 step, 4, shuffle our way across the floor. Takes total tango, up and down, pogo, flamingo, or limbo. Honey Max gets it, go, go. Well, it ain't what you dance, it's the way you dance it. It ain't what you move, it's the way you move. And I said, oh no, let's go, dance all night at the disco. Moving around like a light on the town. Well, it ain't what you guess, it's the way you dance it.
Then the Swingers switched out some more members, put out one final single, before Judd moved on yet again.
Stay tuned for the next Phil Judd update.
Water! Water! Arr, sailors! 6 months we've been in this leaky boat here. You people up there in the northern hemisphere, you think you've got it all. But we know you haven't. Because we've got it down here. We've got the pioneering spirit. Help! Help!
New Zealanders were the first ones to climb Mount Everest, the first ones to split the atom. So you can ask yourselves.
Ladies and gentlemen, it gives me very great pleasure to present to you all Time and Tide, the new album from Split Enz.
The winds, they were a-changin' when Split Enz began prepping Time and Tide. Their cargo was lighter now, by about 200 pounds, with the firing of Mal Green. Also, for the first time, Tim had begun thinking about his future, long-term. Beginning with his own publishing branch, broadening his horizons by writing original material for other artists. And shortly after casting his line into the pop music waters, Tim got a bite, and it was a big one.
What's going on? You're just showing off. Well, I'm cracking down on your cracking up. Then she up and left, it was lunacy. So they locked her up, threw away the key. In the name of modern medicine, Melanie, there's nothing wrong with her. That a dose of me won't cure, but they won't let my girlfriend talk to me.
He didn't much care for how the song sounded, but it was a hit, which was good enough for him, so Tim was pleased. To get away for a while themselves, Tim and Nigel Griggs went to Wales to lay down some stuff to tape, now pumping out songs so quickly they didn't even know what to do with them all.
Something to say, something to be, something to buy. Only I could find something to do. Somewhere to do it, somewhere to think it, somewhere to lie. Only I could find something to do.
By the time the band regrouped, most of them were struggling with the prices of success. Tim was putting way too much pressure on himself and succumbed to a nervous breakdown, which Neil helped him through. Then Neil had his own dealings with recurring 12-hour panic attacks, while Eddie Rayner's anxiety issues were getting to him too. What the band really needed was a good, long hug. Enter Hugh Padgham. Hugh had been the assistant engineer on Frenzy, as you recall, but now he was one of the hot producers of the moment, having worked with the Police, Phil Collins, and Peter Gabriel. Hugh had been in contact with the Enz when they asked him to helm their new collection of material, and he said, sure. But it turned out that the band needed Padgham way more than he needed them. Sure, in the studio, of course, but even more so for their state of minds. Hugh was a very open, giving, and spontaneous producer, which made Tim much more relaxed and open himself, which was a nice change, as Padgham's attitude was rubbing off on everyone. So, with the band feeling at the top of their game, all that was left to do was go out there and make a damn good record.
It's like singing up in the tree. Makes a mockery of my voice. Hippopotamus in the mud. Needs my arrogance in the bud. A little goes a long way. Place to sell yourself. Let's get into the swing of things. Let's continue the downward track. Forehead to arrow me. Never ceases to amaze me
Time and Tide almost instantly leapt to #1 down under. Then, after a tour and some promotion in Australia, the guys headed to the Great White North for their most extensive tour of Canada ever. Canadians really got the band, and the Enz loved playing there, much more so than playing in front of American audiences, with some exceptions. And the good old USA would be their next leg of gigs.
Shovels up to my window, making sure I'm awake. Slowly gonna pick my brain, got me in a vice like grip. I hear you say, for one slip, you're dead. Better get your own habit, you hold a here to stay. Anyone in his right mind, time to go away. The river of the trail runs deep, feel the bugs big up things. The creature don't mess around, I don't wanna mess with him. I don't wanna sell tonight. Daddy preacher's got me at a dust, running strongly inside.
In the UK, Dirty Creature was getting some airplay and gaining momentum. But the momentum was quickly halted when 6 Months was discovered to also be on the album. Why would that be an issue? The Falkland Wars, which broke out just 11 days before Time and Tide's release, and songs about leaky boats were suddenly considered to be in bad taste, under the circumstances. Timing is indeed everything. So the Enz did a shorter tour this time out, but the close quarters on the road would begin eating at them, as their personal irritations were now looming again. Coincidentally, the group was celebrating their 10th anniversary, so Mushroom released a best-of collection to commemorate the occasion. Heck, the Beatles only lasted 10 years, so like the Beatles, Tim had now begun looking for a way out.
Noel, I was wondering, I've been trying to think ever since I heard My Voice Keeps Changing on Me, where did I first see that? That's an old track from way back.
Jack Clemens was who wrote it, yeah. I believe he had another hit. That was his first hit, and he had to sort of go into semi-retirement after that because nobody would take him seriously.
Cause my voice keeps changing on me, slipping and sliding on me, and I can't show my face and my life's a disgrace, cause my voice keeps changing on me,
How did you feel about the reaction to that song? It was fairly subdued.
Oh, it was a personal project, and I made it for myself primarily, and the fact that people got to hear it, you know, particularly up this way, it got a reasonable amount of airplay.
All my days I will sing in praise of your forest waters and shining sand.
Beautiful, beautiful. Let's talk about the solo work, Timmy.
Okay,
What have you been up to? You did a solo album, didn't you?
Yes, I've finished my solo album. It's called Escapade, and it'll be out in about 6 weeks, I think, 5 or 6 weeks.
How much does that differ from the end stuff?
Well, I think it differs a reasonable amount, mainly in the arrangements. There wasn't much I could do with my voice. I was stuck with the one I
You
was
can't
given.
change that, but
the arrangements, the way the thing sounds, is quite different, I think. Neil's heard it. Ask him.
He missed us, you know. Yeah. Who actually played?
Sibling rivalry, you know. I had the very good fortune to have two great people produce it for me, Ricky Fattar and Mark Moffat.
I'm living in a minor key, a melancholy mystery, a quiet place where you and me can be quite still. Piano plays a minor chord, and I'm reminded of the action is a fraction too much fiction, yeah. Oh yeah. It's a very old problem that goes back to the dark ages, the wages of original sin. Let's make it a better world. Let's shake it up, boys and girls. It's never too late to begin. It's one of my golden rules. Never let your guard down for too long. But you were nobody's fool. Let me see how wrong I was. Oh, you crossing it open embrace. I realize there's nothing to lose. All of a sudden you came along and made my day. Came along and made my day. You made my day.
While Tim had been making his solo record and Crombie was goofing off in the novelty realm, Eddie Rayner had been doing some stuff too, as he played on and produced a song for JoJo Zepp and the Falcons, who had quite a following themselves.
It's just a losing game we play, and there's nothing left to shout about. I just can't seem to let it go. Lover's question. I just can't seem to let it go. Lover's question. I just can't seem to let it go.
When the guys reconvened to begin work on their 8th full length, it was like night and day, as everyone's wires were getting all crossed up now. Neil came in with his idea of how he wanted the group's career to progress, but Tim's future plans had changed. Did Tim even need them anymore? Now, Tim didn't bail or anything, but he kind of half-assed it through the process, as his mind was back in Sydney with his solo career still forging ahead. And it made everyone feel uncomfortable too, to the point where the boys didn't really want to be around him much anymore. So, with Tim's future highly questionable now, they pressed onwards anyway. Neil had begun relying on drum machines now as well, because he'd become frustrated by Crombie's shortcomings. So during the actual sessions, two things happened. First, manager Nathan Brenner had begun working for another Australian band by the name of Men at Work, so he was in America. The second thing that happened came via Stork, as Neil was dealing with baby responsibilities back at home. So Eddie Rayner kind of took the lead now, and his idea was more keyboards. Lots of keyboards. So when Brenner in America finally heard what the band was working on, he was flummoxed, predicting Americans wouldn't even like it. The guys thought it was super cool though.
This could be heaven, or this could be hell. Life could be falling down a bottomless well. I stumble to the left, I stumble to the right, I fumble for the switch of a disconnected light. Stay with it. Don't let temptation be your load. Stay with it. But there are bandits on the road. Don't look to the left, don't look to the right. Swallow that straight old line. Don't look to the left, don't look to the right. Swallow that straight old line.
But it turned out that Brenner's prediction came to fruition, because A&M only liked one song, the ballad. And since it would be too costly for the label to put a lot of money into a single that had no strong follow-up behind it, they didn't, instead telling the band to go back into the studio and do something about it. Well, the Enz got huffy, stood behind their new songs with artistic integrity, and basically told A&M to shove off. The label's reply to that was pulling all the funding from Tim's solo album promotion, as well as immediately closing the books on Split Enz. A quite firm response. However, down under, it was yet another victory lap, as conflicting emotions came out in November and landed in the Kiwi top 3 and number 12 in Oz, with its ballad leading the way. Even though they've lost America now, Tim's escapade began making waves in Europe, going to number 2 in the Netherlands and picking up steam in other countries as well. During Tim's resurgence in the North Atlantic, the Enz began a vigorous audition process to find a new drummer, since Neil had asked Santa Claus for one for Christmas. So when Paul Hester finally came down the chimney, Neil and the band were thrilled. Noel would get back to thickening out the rhythm section, and Hester really fit in with everyone. So things were feeling pretty good again now. I mean, good considering Split Enz were about to break up.
It's time for another Phil. You know what I'm going to say.
Phil had already left 2 bands behind when he decided to make his first solo album, figuring he can't leave himself. So when Private Lives was released in September of '83, record shop owners may as well have taken the day off. It bombed, and in a big way. So, that's about it.
Have a nice day.
The Countdown Awards acknowledge excellence and popularity in the Australian music scene.
Best Songwriter, 1983. Of course, Tim Finn.
Tim Finn, long renowned for his writing expertise, as part of Split Enz, won him this award last year, put a selection of his own songs together at Escapade.
Tim Finn!
1983 was a big year for Tim Finn, as well as working with the Enz. He had a top 10 solo album and single, and performed critically sell-out shows in Sydney and Melbourne. Tim Finn!
Escapade, Tim Finn.
Tim Finn's Escapade to the studio with producers Mark Moffat and Ricky Batar stayed on the album chart for 41 weeks and peaked at number 8. Another big finish for Tim.
Yep, Tim was gone. Not officially, mind you, but you could tell he was gone. And when the band teamed up again for a new album process, Tim wasn't looking forward to it at all, and he had brought almost no new songs to the table. It became obvious to everyone that Tim didn't even want to be there. So he split. Pun absolutely intended. So Neil had gone from watching his older brother build a band up from scratch to now being the leader of, essentially, someone else's group, which made him feel very uncomfortable and began to weigh on him, resulting in a closed-door meeting at Nathan Brenner's house, his decision to terminate Split Enz. After they finished their final full-length, that is, as it was now a case of dead band walking. Neil had just 5 songs ready to go, so without Tim now, they decided to patch up the rest of the record, using old demo ideas already sitting on cutting room floors. And everyone got a chance to play, as each group member contributed their own song to the disc. Even Noel Crombie, who had his old novelty B-side refurbished, just for him. When the collection was completed, the Enz gave it a most appropriate title, See You Round, which translates to Maori as Kakiteano.
No, I'm talking about why Neil said let's call it a day. Why did you say let's call it a day?
I said... It wasn't a question of success or lack of it. We've had plenty of success. We've experienced what it's like to be big. We've experienced what it's like to be starving and on the dole. We've experienced everything a band can experience. I don't think success had anything to do with it. There's so many reasons that have contributed to it. Ultimately, it's just an instinctive thing. You know, the idea of a fresh challenge is there as well, sure.
The finale was only released down under and in Canada. And although the sales numbers weren't up to snuff, See You Round still hit number 5 at home and 29 in Australia. So the book was now officially closed on Split Enz. Almost. To celebrate their historic achievements, they decided to go on the road one last time, to close out 1984, with the Enz with a Bang tour. And yes, Tim was there too, as they were all acting like school kids again.
Here we are at the Logan Campbell Centre in Auckland on the 9th of December and preparing to do our last show tonight. Actually, it was on the 9th of December in 1972, ironically, when we began our performance. As you can see, emotions are running high, and later in the show you'll see why when we give you a glimpse of the last concert here in Auckland tonight.
A perfect ending for the most famous band to ever come out of New Zealand, as well as being Australia's favorite adopted child, loved as much as any of their own children.
It's Tim and Neil here, and hello Australia, welcome to Countdown, and over to you now.
It's good to have the young fella back. That's Tim, that's my brother. Families, that's what's most important.
Blood is thicker than rumour.
Exactly.
Paul Hester here, and it was a hard decision for me to make. It's been a big part of my life, and I'm proud of everything we've done together. And here's a reason why I knew it would be okay, because after me there is a lot of life. And here's Split Enz without Moir, with I'll Walk Away.
Well done.
You came out of the world to me. My life parted like the Red Sea. We flowed easy between the rocks and stones. Never seemed to stop us. The years ended in confusion. Don't ask me, I don't know what
What would happen beyond this point would be anyone's guess, although Neil had already started planning a new band with drummer Paul Hester. So we'll just have to wait and see how that goes.
Hamilton. Good evening to you all. Crash diet. I got my ear to the ground. And I got a notion that we should have a fire break.
Well, it always happens like that. They always mess it up. But I keep telling them, boys, it's a case of mind over matter. You've got to get your mind over your matter. Cigarette burns, cold showers for hours. The training helps me through it.
Thank you very much for having us back on. We'd like to say to you all that you here tonight, anyway particularly, but anyone else who is listening or watching, you're our best friend.
You're my best friend, you help me face the facts with your flights of fancy. You're the one I want to hobnob with. You're a man after my own heart. Two is company, three's a crowd. Lost my temper with family circle. Had to pay the penalty. Just another allied casualty. You're my best friend. You're my only. Won't break a pin. You're no phony.
When we must say goodbye, soon you'll be sailing far across the
Bit of Maori stuff.
sea.